Now, I want to talk about a very important new feature which was being requested by many of our customers, and that has to do with custom environments and the Imperial units on the modeling side. So let's begin by Imperial units. So if you remember, on the bottom right-hand side of COMOSYS, there is the units menu over here, units option over here. And previously, we had millimeters, centimeters, meters, kilometers, inches, and feet. We also had these, which are imperial units, but these were in decimal format. So, for example, you could not say 5/8 of an inch. You would need to divide 5 by 8 and put that number in decimal format to give you the exact value. So we are still retaining those two, pure inch input in decimal format, pure feet input in decimal format. But then we have another unit. This is a special unit over here called feet inches. And this one allows us to enter whatever distances which need to be entered in the fractional foot inch format. So let's see what that means. So currently I have my units in millimeters. If I double click on the grid, you see it's 4 times 6,000, 4 times 6,000. That's the default. But if I go into this units and convert it into the feet inches, this format. Now this is the fractional format. If I do that, and now I double click on the grid, those 6,000 millimeters are now converted into feet and inches. So it says 0, 4 into 19 feet, 8 underscore 7/32 of an inch. Now we have the underscore over here. Normally you won't be required to do this, but this is only required in places where you can have multiple inputs separated by spaces. So in those cases, you have to fill the space with an underscore. So for example, if I were to say 4 into 22 feet, let's say that. Now in the x direction, I've got 22 feet going like that. For example, if I were to measure the distance from here to here, it says 22 feet. At the top, it says 264 inches, 0 inches in the y direction, 0 inches in the z direction. Now, whenever you do that, you'll get an answer like that. Let's change the y direction as well. So 4 into, say, 16 feet, for example. If I press OK, I change my y direction. If I double click again, if I say 22 feet, and then I say 6 inches. 22 feet, 6 inches. If I do that, it's slightly increased. So it's 22.5 feet right now. If I wanted to say 6/3/8 of an inch, in that case, I would put the underscore sign and say 3 divided by 8 of an inch. That would move it slightly more. So this is a convenient way of inputting your distances in the feet inch format. Now, in principle, this feet inch format, because it's a fractional format, it's kind of limited in its accuracy to 1/32 of an inch, which is less than a millimeter, so it should be fine. But let's say you wanted to have a much more exact grid distance, so which is an exactness which is more than 1/32 of an inch. In that case, what you would need to do is not use this one, but actually go to the actual inch system, for example. And when you go to that one, then the numbers are converted into decimal. As you can see, it says 4 into 270.375 inches. The moment you go into the inch system, it'll be you lose the fractional input method, but now you can actually go and say 37557 inches if you wanted to. Now that will obviously change it to that exact value. But if you go back to, and I mean not for the grid, but if you when you're using other commands like copy and move, you need to understand this point, that if you need an exact thing, which is like exact to the 10th decimal place or something, it's better to go into inches and feet. But if you want to use the fractional one, then you use that one. Now let's do an example with a frame. For example, let's put a column over here. If I double click on that, I'm in the feet inch system at the moment. It's brought the numbers in the feet inch fractional system. Let's say I want to make it 20 feet. Immediately the column is raised to the 20 feet level. If I want to say 20 feet and 6 inches, I can do that as well. Rises up a bit more. Let's do a beam example. For example, put a beam over here, and its position and depth is behind. It's behind 0. If I give it an offset of 6 inches, it's going to move 6 inches behind. So these numbers will work in the fractional system, but these offsets over here, we have forced them to work only in the decimal system, and the reason for that is because these usually need to be very accurate. So it doesn't make sense to enter these numbers in the fractional 1 over 32 or 3 over 8 or whatever. It's better to leave them. So whenever you're entering these numbers, it's going to directly go, even if you don't change it from here, it's going to directly go to the decimal system for these offsets. So for example, if I were to enter a number over here, I know it's automatically going to be in the decimal system. So if I say 12.37654, it's going to take 12.37654 inches as that number. And if I do that, the offset is extended to the exact amount which I want. So over here, I don't even need to say the quotation. I just need to enter a number like I'm entering in the normal decimal format. It will always be in the base units, which is inches. Similarly, with the plates, I can enter if I have my feet inch units installed, I can enter my thickness as in the fractional format. So 5/8 of an inch, it's going to become 5/8 of an inch like that. And similarly, your offset can also be entered as, for example, half inch. If you want to, you could do that. It's going to move it half inch forward. Now let's use the copy command, for example. Let me select the plate and the column, right click, say copy special linear. And as you can see, because I'm in the feet inch system, it's bringing me some numbers over there. I can say go 6 feet, say 5/8 of an inch. I'm sorry, I didn't write that correctly. 6 feet 5 divided by 1/8 of an inch, and make 2 copies of that. Or 2 copies of that. If I do that, my column is copied. And if I were to go and measure, if I say measure distance from here to here, you can see it's 6 feet 5/8 of an inch. Now, if I had a more exact copy, which I needed, I could go to my inch system, for example. So let me undo this. Go to my inch system and select this or both of them, and just go in and say, for example, 75.5755 inches. Now, in this case, I don't need to give the single quote because these systems are in decimal format. And I got 2 copies of that. If I copy them, these are copied 75.5755 exactly. And if I were to measure the distance, you can see that this is going to be 75.5755 inches. So that's very handy. Even the direct entry system, which is very popular in COMOSYS, will start taking the input in Imperial Units once you select the feet inch. So for example, if I select the column command and hover over this point, press enter and say dx 2 feet, it's going to put the column 2 feet from that point. Similarly, if I were to, for example, let's say I put a column over here and a column over there. Let's just put it like that. And I put a beam from here, and then I cover over this point, and I say BZ 25 feet 6 inches. The beam is going to go to that point. So the direct entry system also starts taking the input in the fractional system if you want. Similarly, in the macros, once again, you can use your either the fractional or the decimal system when you're entering the inches. So for example, here, if I feel that this cleat is too far from the top, I can maybe say it's 5/16 of an inch, a little less than an inch. Apply, And then to see whether I'm clashing with the radius, I can go to this new feature. I can say draw the exact shape, and I can see that I'm okay over there. So once again, your dialog boxes as well, your macro dialog boxes as well, will have this option of the fractional and decimal input systems. Now let's talk about the environments option. If you go to your Explorer and see that under whatever structure you have, under Program Data, Proya Software, and COMOSYS 2024, you will see these directories. And I'll be talking about two of those directories, the environment directory, environments, and one is company settings. Now, with this version, we are providing you with lots of factory default environments. So if you see over here, it says there's a default one, then there's several, Australia, India, Russia, Turkey, and USA. And these are all under this environments directory. And inside each of them, there's a whole list of, all sorts of settings and presets and profile databases and bulk databases. Everything basically to do with that environment is under each of those directories. Now this is the environments directory, and this is the one which is like out of the box. These are factory settings, so you're not supposed to play with these files. What you can do is use any one of these to clone your own environment. So for instance, if you're a company doing business with the USA and doing business with, let's say, 3 different companies from the USA, and each of those companies has different, let's say, drawing standards or whatever settings or defaults or databases or whatever it is, you can create 3 new environments based on the USA default environment, and then basically customize each one of them and save them away. Where do you save them away? You save them away in your company settings. And if I double click on the company settings, you have only the default directory with the standard setup, but you could create as many new environments, copies of environments, or environments based on the US or based on the Australian or based on whatever default environment. And you can keep adding those, you can clone those environments over here. So this is a very handy way of building up your own environments. Now, while the name of this directory is hard-coded as environments, the name of this particular directory, company settings, will depend on your local ini files. So just check your COMOSYS ini file over here. If I double-click on that, you will see that over here you have the company settings directory, and over here you give the name of the folder. So whatever name you have over here, that will be the name of this folder. So now let's delve a bit deeper. Like I said, each of these directories have the environment information inside them. So let's double click on any one of them. There's one folder inside called catalogs, and this folder will have the profile catalog as well as the bolts catalog. So whatever you're modifying or customizing, it will be saved under these 2 files over here. These are the primary databases. If I come up, the next one is preferences. And in this directory basically lie all the default settings of the macros, the presets, the tools on the modeling side, the various commands on the drawing side, for example, all your, for example, your dimensioning, the dimension parameters which you have for your drawings, what kind of style you're using for dimensioning. All those informations are under the preferences directory, and as you can see, there's a lot over here. They're related to the drawing module, like I just mentioned. They're related to macro settings, macros, mechanical objects, report templates, general settings, structural objects. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the details over here, but basically anything and everything which defines the defaults and the settings of all the commands on the modeling side or on the drawing side are all under this preferences directory. Now let's see those directories from the user interface. If I were to go to my file menu and come down to the settings, these general settings open up. And on the right hand side, I have this tab called environments. And inside the environments, if I go, you have the environments for new models. What this means is that any new model which you make will be based on the environment you choose from here. And what do you get from here? You basically get only one. And this is what we just showed you. The one over here in under the company settings, we only have the one option right now, the default one. So this list is very limited at the moment. But over here, you can create more environments, and you do that by cloning based on some existing factory one. So let's say I wanted to clone the USA environment, make a copy of that. Like I said, these are factory environments, and you can't spoil them or add anything to them. They will stay the way they are, but you can clone them. So when I say clone, it asks for a name, and I can give it a name of, say, company one, based on the USA one. And if I press OK, it's going to take a few seconds because it's copying a lot of files into those directories. And then it's going to give you a message saying the environment has been cloned successfully. And when I press OK, now I get that company one option in my in this list as well. So if I select this one, for example, what it means is that once I press OK, any new model I create will basically be based on the company one USA environment. Now, like I said, once I create a new model, let's say based on company one USA environment, I can then continue to, for example, modifying the databases. Let's say I could add some new profiles or add some new bolts, or I could make some changes in the default settings on the drawing side or something. Now, whatever changes I make after that in that model, whatever changes I make to the settings, for example, when I save them, they will not spoil this company one USA environment. All those changes will be saved only in the local model directory. So whoever is creating that model will basically save it for himself. And the reason why we do it like this is because we don't want somebody to spoil the company environments. If you do want to, at some point, do it, you will need to copy it manually from some local folder or do it in a more controlled way. But by default, we allow you to make clones of the factory environments, save them away, and then new models are based on that cloned environment. If you want to check what environment this current model, which is open, is based on, you go to this model directory over here, click it, and over here it will tell you which environment this particular model is based on. So you can find out, let's say you receive a model from somewhere, you can find out about its environment. Now, what if you receive a model from someone and you open it and you go over here and you see that it is based on a certain environment, but your own local installation does not have that environment amongst the available environments. So somebody has created a new environment, done a complete model with it, and they've sent you the model, but you don't have that environment. So in that case, what you will need to ask them is to provide those directories which are their environment directories, and then copy those environment directories in the company settings folder. And then when you open the model, you will be able to work with it.